The badge says Porsche, but is it? We'll find out this week on Motoring 2003.
TSN's Motoring 2003 is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.
You know, we've all heard that saying, never say never. Well, I've been a Porsche fan since I was that high, and we've been doing this program since 1988, and I never thought I'd be doing what I'm about to do, and that is introduce a Porsche sport utility. And you know, ever since Porsche unveiled its plans to build the Cayenne, there has been great debate. Why would the company tarnish its high-performance sports car image by getting into the sport utility craze? And that's one of the questions we're going to be asking this week. And you know, Porsche has been testing this vehicle since way back in 1998. They know they had to get it right. The Cayenne had to be a true Porsche, albeit with 4 doors and 4 cup holders.
Well, I've been with Porsche since '85, and if you would have told me in '85 that anybody would sell $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 SUVs, I'd have said you're insane. I'd have said you're crazy. But we are. We do. There's a market for them, there's a demand for them, and like I said, it's a big enough segment for a niche player like Porsche to come in and just play in that niche, because we don't need a whole lot of vehicles to double our sales.
Most everybody didn't think they would see it. I was talking to Hurley Wood, long driver with Porsche, winner at Le Mans, and he was the first amazed. He says, I never thought I would drive one day an SUV Porsche. The Boxster made the company go in the black again, money-wise. They had the 911, so where do you go from there? It's a small company. They need investment and they need new money. So the only logical step was to go in an SUV. That's what they did.
If it's a business model, then they're sticking with it. It's a good one, I suppose. If they can stay independent and continue to build Porsche sports cars, sure, anything for that.
It's been a fabulous project. Right from the very beginning, when I started working on this project, we already had prototypes that they'd put together in Germany, and I was privileged enough to go on winter testing with the test team, and right from the beginning I knew they were on the right track, that this would truly be the Porsche of SUVs. You can go back 10 years or more and compare different Porsche vehicles next to each other, and you can see that there are family resemblance between them. There's a common gene pool there. And as we looked at earlier today, you can see from looking at a Boxster to a 911 to the Cayenne that there's common styling cues. The Cayenne powertrain is all new. It's something that we've developed from the ground up for this vehicle. It starts off with a 4.5 liter naturally aspirated V8 that develops 340 horsepower and 310 pounds-foot of torque for the Cayenne S. The Cayenne Turbo utilizes a 4.5 liter V8 with 450 horsepower and 460 pounds-foot of torque. Both of these engines send their power through a 6-speed Tiptronic transmission, then to a permanent, all-the-time, all-wheel drive drivetrain that does have a high-load transfer case that provides a reduction gear for off-road maneuverability and extra torque when you need it and control off-road.
Well, first, it's a little bizarre. Myself, like a lot of people, didn't think we'd ever see the day to be driving a Porsche through the mud in the woods. So it kind of does defy logic in a lot of ways.
The vehicle's exceptional off-road. You found that out today in your opportunity to drive it. And it also operates very well in snowy conditions. And I think once people discover more and more the capabilities of the vehicle, perhaps we'll see a greater number who do take it off-road.
We make the ultimate in deferrable purchases. I mean, no one needs a Porsche sports car. It's a right brain thing, you gotta have it. But no one truly, with their left brain functioning, truly needs one. We think the Cayenne, it's a practical vehicle. It becomes the second car in the family, if not the first car. And because it's needed, even in economic difficult times, you gotta buy a new one. And why not have fun?
Actually, the car's fabulous. It is by far the fastest SUV I've driven. Two available model, the S, the Turbo. The S, I would put the S at par with the 4.6 X5 at the BMW. And the Turbo is in a class by itself. It's 450 horses.
The vehicle must be a Porsche. And people didn't believe and don't believe that it's possible in an SUV. We're raising the bar for everybody. All of our competition are now going to see what it takes to perform up here at this level.
More later on Kenzie's Corner.
Chrysler is hyping its new Pacifica as a segment buster of the first order. The question that begs, of course, is that just hyping a sleeker minivan, or has in fact DC built a better mousetrap? Dynamically, the Pacifica is very well balanced and remarkably poised for such a large vehicle. Indeed, the handling is more like a civilized station wagon than your typical soft roader or minivan. What body roll does show up is quickly controlled, and through the pylons the suspension takes a quick set and holds it as the pavement deteriorates. The reason for the sure-footed wherewithal is the suspension. McPherson struts up front and a modified version of Mercedes-Benz E-Class 5-link load-leveling suspension in the rear. The combination is such that even when driven with enthusiasm, the Pacifica's road manners remain entirely predictable, and there is plenty of positive feedback from the variable assist rack and pinion steering. You know, versatility and flexibility is a key component in this category, and for the most part the Pacifica lives up to its billing. Now, if you happen to have 6 people, which are accommodated in 3 rows of 2, you've got very little luggage space left. There is a storage compartment under here, but here, well, the pylons fill pretty much all of it. Now, if you need to accommodate more luggage, it's very simple. You simply fold down the rear seats and that opens it up appreciably. If you fold down the center seats as well, it bumps the cargo capacity to 143.6 cubic feet, which is more than up to snuff in this category. The optional all-wheel drive system helps the overall feel as well. Basically, it functions pretty much as a front-wheel drive system until the wheels spin. When this occurs, a viscous coupling begins to lock, sending more of the power rearward. It really is one of the better front-biased offerings in this regard. Sit up front in the Pacifica and you'll find everything you expect in a vehicle that costs almost $50,000, plus you get 2 surprise items. One deals with safety, the other is an option that eases the task of driving. The safety item, well, it's power adjustable pedals. Having powered the seat into the right place so that you're far enough away from the airbag, you simply power the pedals back to accommodate a shorter leg. It really does improve the safety of the vehicle. The other thing is the navigation system. Now, rather than sticking a nav screen up on the dash, they've buried the screen down within the Speedo. Now, this accomplishes 2 things. First of all, because it's in the Speedo, it's intuitive because you're used to looking there. The second thing, because it's buried within the instrumentation, it's much less predisposed to washing out in bright sunlight. In short, Chrysler really did have their thinking caps on when they designed the Pacifica. When it comes to power, the same is difficult to say, as the Pacifica is best described as having somewhere between barely enough and enough. With just the front seats occupied, the 250 horsepower and 250 pounds-feet of torque developed by the 3.5-litre V6 is enough to provide brisk acceleration and decent passing power. However, load the vehicle and the engine really does have to work for its living, and it basically boils down to weight. Even when empty, at 4,700 pounds, the Pacifica is a porker. Needless to say, tossing in another 600 pounds in the form of people or cargo, well, it really dulls the edge. Thankfully, though, the transmission works well, bringing sensibly spaced ratios and auto stick, a manumatic mode that allows the driver to toggle through the gears. The centre row of seats in this Pacifica have been very well thought through for the most part. To begin with, the seats themselves, where they're very comfortable indeed. You also, if you take the optional DVD player, it comes with wireless headphones. Not only does the DVD player stop all of those really annoying "Are we there yet, Dad?" questions, it allows the kids to watch the DVD whilst listening to the soundtrack on these headphones, while I can listen to the usual radio. It really has been thought through very well. Now, where it comes unravelled somewhat is that Chrysler elected to put this centre console in the middle between the two rear seats. Now, admittedly, you get heated seats and rear climate controls, but if you need to carry 5 people and all of their luggage, well, it doesn't work quite so well. Simply, the 5th person has to sit in the back, which cuts down on the amount of cargo capacity. If they were smart, they would have allowed you to delete the 3rd row and put a bench seat here. That would give you true 5-seater capacity. As it stands, they say it was never in the plans for the vehicle. Well, I'm sorry, I think it's going to hurt them. When it comes to safety, the Pacifica rates very well. Along with the all-wheel drive system, it gets a large set of fade-free discs and a decent anti-lock system. It also counts the usual passive devices and then some. The drop-down side curtains, for example, protect the occupants in all 3 rows, and there's a knee bolster airbag which prevents the driver from kneecapping himself on the underdash hardware. A tyre pressure monitoring system that warns the driver if one of the tyres goes soft is standard fare, while high-intensity discharge headlights and a full-size spare tyre are 2 worthwhile options. You know, it wasn't all hype, because the Pacifica is a better mousetrap. Quite simply, you get the best of a station wagon combined with the best of a minivan. Throw in the all-wheel drive and you've got some SUV. The one thing I'm not overly confident about is that power tailgate. As far as I'm concerned, it's technology for technology's sake. Anyway, the bottom line, we soccer dads have now got a decent set of wheels.
This tip of the week concerns dealing with foreign objects in the tread of your tire. I'm sure you've all experienced at one time or another an object in the tread of the tire, and you're wondering whether or not you should disturb it. Well, first of all, assess the tire pressure. If the tire is visibly underinflated or flat, the first thing you want to do is install your spare. Then you can take that loose wheel into the shop to be repaired. In the case of this one, our tire pressure gauge confirms the fact that the tire is pretty close to the correct inflation pressure. So this object may not have punctured the tire. It entered at an extreme angle, so I think it's probably just stuck in the tread. But in any case, you shouldn't disturb it until you're ready and able to either install the spare or repair the tire. Now, I think because of the angle involved that we're going to be lucky and this one hasn't punctured the tire, but we'll see. Well, we were real lucky and this one didn't puncture it. But if you discover an object like this in your tire, leave it undisturbed for a couple of reasons. The angle can be quite helpful to the tire repair personnel. They want to see the angle of entry. And secondly, if in fact it did puncture the tire and you remove the object, it'll be completely flat in no time at all. That's your Midas tip of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dodge Avenger concept car.
The Avenger is basically a four-door hatchback, and it started as a sedan that wanted to be rally inspired, wanted to be kind of nimble, wanted to have yet a bold and capable appearance. It's a all-wheel drive vehicle, has a 3.5 liter engine, it's a 300 horsepower engine, kind of tweaked a little bit more. It has pedal shift, it's very unique, it has a push button transmission and paddle selecting on both sides of the steering wheel. The designers are young, and it is very important because they help us guide what the next aesthetics are going to be for the company. They have the vision. They aren't tainted by any production eyes, conditions. They have a very fresh look on design and what the youth market wants, what the general public may want.
Now we're going to head to the Quaker State Garage and join Bill Gardiner in just a moment. But first, we're going to show you something that I think even Bill might be impressed with. Well, I'm not going to show you, but one of this country's most talented race car drivers, Rick Bywell. And Rick, what do we got here and what are we going to see?
Well, Porsche have asked me to do a trailering demonstration with their brand new Cayenne S, and to add a little pressure to the program, they plunked one of their 2003 Carreras on the trailer, and which in Canadian dollars is probably $120,000. And just to keep me honest, and they told me if I heard it, I'm going to own it. So we do a very high-speed lane change with it, and it's fairly impressive, and it's something to watch. What we're actually doing is about an 8-wheel drift with the 4 wheels on the trailer and the 4 wheels in the Cayenne, and you can feel the PSM system pulsating a little bit. And what's amazing is the amount of thought and engineering that goes into a system like this. It's demonstrations like this that I think separate the Cayenne from most other SUVs. Once you do it, you get to spend some time in a course like this. You get to see why this is a real Porsche.
Well, I know Porsche has yet to come out with a pickup truck, but I'm wondering if Bill Gardiner of the Quaker State Garage might be interested in the Cayenne now that he knows you can throw a trailer hitch on it. How about it, Bill?
Well, I'll tell you, what Brad's referring to is the fact that I'm a strong believer in towing your loads. In other words, if you've got some toys, dirt bikes, ATVs, Sea-Doos, etc., a lot of guys are running out and buying heavy-duty four-wheel drive pickups to carry these vehicles in. Really what they should be doing is buying a trailer and putting the load in the trailer, because when you have to buy a real husky vehicle like a pickup truck to carry those loads occasionally, you're paying the fuel mileage penalty of a pickup truck all year round for those 10 or 15 days when you need to move a load. So it's better to put it in the trailer, a lot less wear and tear in your vehicle as well. What we want to talk about this week is an email we've got from a viewer. Now, we've had a late winter storm here, and we've got some pretty poor conditions. It's pretty slippery here, as you can see, and you can't get much traction with your vehicle. Now, our viewer says that he wants to know about bumping the car into neutral when stopping on ice and snow. And that's certainly something that you should be aware of. When you're trying to stop a vehicle, whether it's front-wheel drive, rear-wheel, all-wheel drive, if you're on ice and snow, there are occasions, especially if you're descending a grade, where it's advantageous to bump that vehicle into neutral if it's an automatic transmission. Remember, an automatic transmission vehicle is always trying to push you forward. You're sitting at a traffic light, you've got to ride the brakes to stop it from creeping out into the intersection. And that little bit of drive that's still there, even with the engine back at idle, is enough that if you're on ice and snow, it's going to affect your braking. You're not going to be able to stop properly, particularly on a downgrade. So certainly a valid point to bump the vehicle, automatic transmission vehicle, into neutral. Remember, if it's a console shift, don't depress the thumb button, just a quick bump forward. If it's on the column, don't pull the lever in, just bump it upwards one notch, then you're into neutral. Now you're going to be able to control that vehicle a little bit better when stopping on a downgrade in ice and snow. Remember, if you've got all-wheel drive vehicle or four-wheel drive vehicle, a lot of people think that these vehicles are invincible in the winter and they overdrive them. If you overdrive your tires, you're going to be one of those people that's on the news at night. You know, I watch the news at night, and it seems like the most involved vehicles in collisions in the wintertime seem to be sport utilities with four-wheel drive. I think people just get overconfident with them and overdrive them. You've got to have a good set of winter tires on all four corners so you've got the maximum bite, but there's still going to be times when you're on ice, whether you've got all-wheel drive, ABS, and the best tires, you've still got to use extreme caution. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2003.
Well, you already know what I think of SUVs. So what to think of a Porsche SUV? A 5,000-pound Porsche truck with wood trim. Now, there's no question that it's technically very capable. It's amazing on-road, it's a sensational off-road, and on the racetrack, well, it's the fastest SUV, best handling SUV out there. But surely that's the ultimate miscongeniality prize. I mean, nobody's going to take these things off-road anyway. And on the racetrack, how much better would it be if it were 1,000 pounds lighter and 8 inches lower? And if it were a station wagon, of course, it would be even better because it would have more room inside. But of course, Americans won't buy station wagons. They only buy SUVs. So Porsche says 40% of the customers have an SUV, so they have no choice. They've got to get in that market. Okay, so maybe 40% of Porsche customers smoke crack cocaine. Does that mean Porsche's got to supply cocaine to their customers? I don't know. Whatever happened to going down with your ship? But anyway, here, well now this is a Porsche. I'm Jim Kenzie.
So Jim has his reservations. As for me, well, it's a Porsche. It's hard to find anything wrong with it. Yes, design is subjective, but when it comes to performance, they've nailed it. But you know, I'm the kind of guy that if I've got between $80,000 and $125,000, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it into a 911. But I feel the same way about BMW and the X5 and the ML series with Mercedes. I'm a car guy. But having said that, I can understand why Porsche has built the Cayenne. They're in the business of selling cars. And you just watch. They'll sell every Cayenne they can build. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
From the back, it looks too much like a big Civic. People love Civics. Are they willing to go to about $35,500 for this? Probably.
TSN's Motoring 2003 has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.